All right, hey there, Sam with you midday on Tuesday, May 29th. And next up, per member request, is a look at ICX, Icon to Bitcoin. Now I've got it up, here's the 2 hour on Binance. Now one thing I wanted to show you first, this is my last trade, and I think this is a trade we posted in the room, as I recall, as well, and some took it. So let's just review here, because I think it's always a good idea to see a trade that doesn't work out. Now, so the rationale for this trade here, and I just left this on here so you can see it. So the rationale for the trade was that we had a good pivot here. We had the wave structure. We had a clean, clear five-wave, impulsive wave coming off of that low, and it looked like we had a correction here. So working from that low to this high, you can see why we took the trade. So we had all the ingredients all the things that we look for, all were right there. Now I relabeled here that we now have a diagonal for this A wave. But you can see this was the rationale behind the trade. So it was all good. You had your corner pocket, you had a 50, you had the 1-2. We thought this was an ABC coming down here. At least that's what, as I recall last time I did a video on this as well. So it looked like we had one ABC coming in, nice little poke down to get a fill at the 50. We get the fill and it takes off. Now, I will say we did move the stop to break even, which isn't, so that's kind of the point I wanted to show you. So the entry's all good. Trade just doesn't work out, it rolls over. But when you get that far away from a trade like that, there's no reason to hold the risk, right? You go risk free. So yes, I think most of the people, my members that took that trade, we took a scratch on that, which, some people will tell you as long as you didn't lose money, it's a winner. Well, there was some profit there that was given back. But the point is, you got to take that trade, right? So I would take that trade 100 out of 100 times. There is no reason not to take that trade. Now, they're not all going to be winners. You got to accept that, right? But if you get, so the point is, now it looked like we had the ingredients of, some sort of an ugly one wave going in. So as it came back down, it was, the reasonable, practical approach would be to tighten up that stop, right? Because we didn't get the nice looking start to, this was the 1-2. We didn't get the nice start to that one of the three. So that's a scratch. Now, looking as to where we sit now, of course, we've had to do some relabeling. So this now appears, and this was actually a bit of a tricky count. This was a little confusing. So what you have to do in something like that, sometimes you got to work backwards. So what was clear here was that we had this five-wave structure coming down here. You can see now I've still got that fib pull on it. Here's the 50. Here was the reaction, baby little reaction at the golden zone. We go all the way to the 887, which is an absolute extreme for an internal retracement, yet there it is. So let me pull that off now. We don't need it. So this was a little bit tricky in here. So a lot of times the way to get a sense of what may be happening there is to work backwards. Well, this is a clean five. We can see that. So there's your impulsive fifth to complete on the assumption, right? So the assumption is that it's a correction, that we're correcting this move here, this five wave. Let me frame this. So from this swing low to this swing high, this is all part of a correction of that move. Well, as long as we stay above that low, we still have an internal retracement, still internal. Now, 887, that's an extreme. That's a push for it, and I suppose, ultimately you could come all the way down here and double bottom. But we stay internal, and now we're getting this reaction. So working backwards on the assumption that I've got a pivot there that makes sense given that clear, clean five. Well, if that's my C wave, I got to work backwards into that. Well, then I need a three-wave B to get me there. So that from this low, when you can see here, we get an A, B, C into the B, and then we go up, we finish here. And you could call it, so clearly there's resistance up here that we've bumped into repeatedly. So we keep running into that up there. So that's not terribly surprising that we pop so 1, 2, 3, 4 times that fails. That's tested, and ultimately look at that's a true failure there. So not terribly surprising here. So working into this, so I get an ABC leaving, I got to find an A wave in there, and it ends up that what I have here is a diagonal. And so this is, it's a little, it was a little tricky, but here was the tell. All right, so in a diagonal, you're always measuring the 4 to the 5, and you take the start of the one wave and look for a retrace from the finish of your what at that time you're identifying as the third. Well, take note what happens here. So here's the start of it through the third. All right, here's the 618 right here. Perfect. Here's the algo target. Boom. Right, so that was there, and part of why we were taking that buy at the 50, because that was absolutely textbook perfect confluence. Right, so here's an example of everything could not be better. So talk about a hot box. Look how good that was. Right, just as good as it gets. I'm gonna put that in green just because it's force of habit. So it doesn't get much better than that. Yet it ends up being a scratch trade. So, I guess the broader point is that's a trade you have. Well, as I teach it, that's a trade you must take. That's a must-take trade. Now, some people would say, oh, well, you could have taken some profit here. But the reason to stay with it, right, was because we broke the 65 going this way. So the thought was that this was some sort of an ugly one. But my larger point is, that's a 100 out of 100 times you take that trade. And you are going to get stopped out a good percentage of that time. But as long as the risk is controlled and you manage, you have a trading plan going into it. So the move here getting through the 65 was the encouraging price action to support the idea that this was a good pivot. And that is a technical pivot. Yet it just ends up being the A wave of a larger correction. So those are trades you got to take, and it's you can't be expecting. Well, look at the confluence. I'm absolutely sure that's going to be a home run trade. It ends up not being that. So nonetheless we have a technical pivot here. So from this 5-wave structure, I get an A, I get my B, and now I'm coming down here, and here we are sitting all the way down to the 887. So definitely an extreme retracement, but it's an internal retracement nonetheless. So potentially now this is a one wave. So if we allow for this, let's finish it up, right? As we would with anything. If we've got 3 pivots like this, well, we can definitely put a pitchfork on it. Now, so that's kind of interesting. So we come down, if I have that dialed in just right here. So sometimes if you have a double top like that, I'll experiment a little bit and just see which looks like it's a better fit. So if I come over, actually looks like the second one is kind of interesting as we hit that. So what are we looking for here? Well, this completed 5. So as we bump into the median line, we know from median line trading principle number 2 that often you'll make a pivot on the median line. And if not a pivot, it can hover around it as it makes a decision as to whether or not it's going to push to the upper parallel or back down to the lower. So at this point, with the count that we have in play, this potentially is just putting in our one wave. So that we'd be looking for something along these lines. If we do end up pivoting here, we'd expect the retrace, but we'd expect that pivot to hold before we go 3, 4, and 5. So the idea is that if we do pull back here, this low will hold, right? So we're working off of the technical pivot down here, looking for a higher low. So if you want to be more conservative, you wait for the retrace because you can be a buyer here between the 50 and the 618, knowing that if it takes that pivot out, the assumption here that this is my internal pivot low of my second wave is incorrect. So why ride it down? No, you don't know where it's going. No reason to do that. If you go into a trade with a technical assumption and a hypothesis to that trade, don't change it. That's one of the biggest mistakes new traders make. Oh no, I know it's going to go higher. It's going to go higher. It's going to go higher. I know it'll get there eventually. It's just take the stop. Take the stop. That is a discipline that you have got to condition yourself that taking a stop is not a big deal. It's just part of trading, right? As I always use the boxing analogy. You cannot go into the ring and expect not to get hit. You're going to get hit. But just don't take the uppercut to the jaw, right? Just little jabs. I'll take jab all day long. Lots of jabs. No problem with the jab. Don't knock me off my feet. And because if you let it happen, you have only yourself to blame for it. Now you've done all sorts of psychological damage because you did it to yourself. So it's a self-inflicted wound. So then all that, oh, I'm such a dumbass, all that negative self-talk is a very dangerous cycle for a trader to get into. And we've all been there. We've all done it. We've all done stupid things. I've done more stupid things than I can possibly remember. But the advantage of having been at this for so long is the idea is not to repeat those mistakes. So if you're looking to be more conservative here, back to the hard right edge of the market, you know, we're trying to pick the low, saying that's the low. It looks like I've got an impulsive wave going in. Great. Okay. Well, look, we know we're going to run into the resistance on the way back. So if I look at that, if I swing, get it right on that. Well, so here, this is interesting. Look at this. So from my pivot low here, if I can get that hot. So look what happens here. So I've got structural prior resistance setting up, just waiting. Look, we got the lower parallel here. Absolutely no reason why that, you know, this would be very common to see something like that. So that would not surprise me at all. So what would happen? We'd have to relabel this. So this would end up being 3, likely 4, then back down for a 5. You know, I'm just hypothesizing here based on what I'm seeing, but we know that's going to be there. No question about it. So pivot, and not only is that one going to be there, that one's you got to deal with as well, right? So we could go, if we get through that, well, then you got the all the way halfway back to deal with there. You got to get through that. Then you got the 618 to get through. So that's what creates these retracements. So it wouldn't surprise me at all, something like that. And then you start moving higher yet again. Retrace, is that a 50? Where do we go? Does it go lower? Back to the median line? That wouldn't be surprising at all. I can just look at that and tell you, so just think about that. So if we went all the way up here to a front run on the 50, well, now we're back to the 786, putting in a potential wave 2 at the median line. That too would be a must buy. Must buy. Here's my stop right down here, right? I love those. Love that. There's my stop. It keeps going. Okay, well, the count is wrong. Something's wrong. I'm wrong. You're wrong. If I'm wrong, I want to be out. I don't want to maintain. I don't want to take the drawdown. Right? That's enough right there. Just that distance. No reason to do it to yourself. All right, let's get back to where we are. So as we sit here now, you know, it's kind of interesting. So we're fighting through not only do we have the Vegas wave, we've got the median line that it's just trying to hover and get through. So let's get this cleaned up a little bit. So the first one we got to deal with is this one. All right, so we got that one. So 38, you know, that all of this is potential resistance, but that is the one that's kind of interesting because that will set that move up there, right? So do you see that? So the buy here, pardon me, if we're moving up here into a sell, so the prior resistance, prior support offering potentially the resistance here at the 50, and that algo that's going to sell that, and I guarantee there will be selling there, is going to be looking for this target. Maybe it gets it down here. You don't know. So you just gotta think it through. What's the bull case? What's the bear case? What happens here? If I don't see what I'm looking for here, well then, you know, if you were in that, so let's just assume you got into this. Maybe you bought the 786, you bought for whatever reason, right? So is this potentially a place to take a partial profit on the anticipation that you're going to have some sort of retrace into the 2 or a visit back to the median line before you get that? Partial profit, maybe full profit. If this comes off and we've got a good clean 5 and this comes down and, and you get a good clean 5 here with a little bit of divergence, maybe you check your oscillators, you come in here, what's happening? Is there any other tell that I can find? Anything else? Anything looking left? What else can I find here to support the idea that might be a place to take 60, 70, 100% profit if you bought the low down here? Now, if you're waiting, right, let's say we don't get there and we get this kind of action. Now we come back down and we get a retrace here. Well, then when you get here, now you got to think twice, right? Because now you have a 3-wave structure. So that could be, this 5 could be just leading into a potential ABC before it goes down again, right? Before they get it here. So you got to kind of map it out in your mind and think, okay, well, what could be happening? First assumption is, okay, let's look at this now. Let's assume I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, what is likely to happen? Well, if I'm wrong, and this is not a good pivot low down here, and I go into a 3-wave, potentially setting up. So look, all that is swing high to swing low, just an internal retracement. It's all everything that happens in the market is based on internal and external retracements. So what do I have here? Just much like this low relative to this low and that swing, just another internal retracement. Internal retracement from swing high to swing low. If that rolls over, that's the target. That's where it's likely to go. So you got to think that stuff through so that you're not up here going, oh, go, 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 and it starts to roll over, and you're going, man, what? I could have sworn that was a third. What's this action? You got to know that that's a contender. That could very easily play out. So if you get up here in a 3. Maybe that's a spot to say, at the very least, tighten up your stop, take it to break even. So you want to let that run? Okay, no problem. You think that's going to go? Great, great. Yeah, it certainly could. Can you get through that one? Get through that? Now, remember, you got to get through this one. All of that resistance is going to fight you on the way up. So where is your target? What is your plan? When are you moving your stop to break even? When are you taking a partial profit? Right? That's all the stuff you got to think through when you're in that trade. Because otherwise, what's the point of all this? Otherwise, you just, well, shit, man, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty low. I like this project. I'm just going to buy it. It looks like it's on sale. All this Elliott wave, all this wave structure, all these fib relationships, median lines. Who gives a shit? If you're just going to play that way, well then, oh, looks like it's on sale. I'll be a buyer and I'll just sit with it. Right? Because I'm a crypto bull. I like this project. Looks like I've got an 80% sale. 80% off. Nothing wrong with that. That's not how we trade. That's not how I trade. I want precision. The precision is available to you if you're willing to work for it and dig it out of the chaos. It's always there. Sooner or later you'll find it. Now, sometimes the market won't have revealed itself, and you need more data to know where the hell you are. But if you want to trade with that kind of precision and manage the risk, it's very doable. We'll teach you how to do it. I'm teaching you how to do it in every single one of these videos. All this is just real-time application of exactly what we're teaching in our members Discord. You want to learn it? It's going to take some work. I'll let you decide whether it's worth it. All right, I didn't mean to get off on a rant there, but this is certainly a project to be watching, right? Next opportunity, I wouldn't be a buyer here, right? Bumping into the median line. Hell no, I'm not going to buy that. But we get a retracement down here, and this looks like a clean 5. Might have to go down to the 15-minute to see that. I get a retracement here between the 50 and the 618. No hesitation. Zero, I will buy that. Knowing what's coming. All right, guys, that's it.